Okay, thank you. We're here on Tuesday, April 1. This is the planning board meeting, and we have a quorum. Is there a motion to open the meeting?
Motion to open.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. We'll just switch the order around just to accommodate one of our applicants. We'll take the request for the extension of time on the Emilio 63 Glendale Road. This is an application for a preliminary subdivision plat approval, and this is a request for a 90-day extension.
Alright, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Jacqueline Cohen. I'm an associate at Zarin and Steinmetz, here tonight on behalf of the owners of 63 Glendale, Giuseppe Emilio. And so we are seeking an extension of the waiver of your board's jurisdiction over the re-subdivision plat that you approved in October 2024. The reason for the extension is we are still awaiting DOH's signature. We did receive some comments from them recently, and we expect to submit our response within the next week or so. So we are asking for a 90-day extension until July 12th.
Okay, thank you. No objections from staff on this? Bob, Sabrina, Dennis? Okay, any objections or problems from members of the board?
I would just ask, do you expect resolution in 90 days? Or do we make this 180 so you don't have to come back in 90 days?
So we do expect resolution. We just had minor comments for DOH.
Okay.
So we would, we expect to submit within the next week or so, and then hopefully they will respond rather quickly. That said, if you can submit.
I don't think you can.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, okay,
I
then
think our max is
forget,
90, I
then
think.
we'll forget my question.
No, we will come back in 90 days if need be, but we hope we don't have to.
Okay, very good. Is there a motion to grant the extension requested by the applicant?
Motion?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So you're all set. Just tell your partners it was a miserable, long night.
I'll let Brad know.
And they gave you such a tough time. We went through everything piecemeal.
Thank you very
Great,
much. Have a
okay.
good night.
Take care. Okay, we move now to our next item. This is an informal appearance before the board. This is the CG Homes LLC, 456 and 462 Armonk Road. This is an application for a preliminary subdivision plat approval, application for a stormwater management and erosion and sedimentation control and tree removal permit for construction of a 4-lot subdivision. Ralph, you're here remotely.
I'm here remote, can everyone hear me?
Yes, yep.
So we submitted these plans essentially to start the secret clock going. There's been no material changes to the plans. We're in the process of getting our testing done this week with Westchester County Department of Health for the second time and New York City DEP for stormwater. We also are in the process of doing our site distance analysis. We've already had the speed sensors out there and they're compiling that data. And we're just, we're getting all the information ready. We just submitted this work to get the clock started. There was some additional information I think Sabrina needed as far as coverage worksheets and things like that, a full environmental assessment form, and I think we've given all that in.
Okay, I think we had some comments. Sabrina, you have comments?
Yeah, thank you for submitting that. There's two aspects tonight that I have for the board. The first is that there's some corrections that need to be made regarding the zoning setbacks and ensuring that the third lot, I don't know if that's a typo, Ralph, or there's an issue with that complying with rear yard setbacks. My comment regarding the septic systems within the setbacks, that was a misunderstanding, so that no longer applies. When it comes to the seeker process, it is an unlisted action, and I have prepared for the board a draft notice of intent to be circulated to involved and interested agencies. So tonight, if you're so inclined, you would resolve to become lead agency and circulate that notice of intent as in a final format. And it was pointed out that the date does need to be changed on that. Other than that, Ralph did say he submitted the coverage calculations worksheets. My only other comment is regarding the 25-foot distance between the boulders. And Dennis, this is really your area of expertise, but I really would like the board to contemplate whether or not the boulders are an adequate demarcation of that wetland buffer on these individual lots. And just thinking back to previous conservation subdivisions, one of your first subdivisions, Random Farms, there really was no barrier that was placed by the planning board to demarcate that wetland buffer. Sutton Farms was a conservation subdivision, and you required a fence with wire mesh to be placed to demarcate the buffer. So in both instances, there are differences. We see a lot of Random Farms property owners before us to make corrections to their property when it comes to coverage and reinstituting buffer area. With Sutton Farms, not so much. So I leave it to Dennis and to your board to really decide how you want that buffer treated. And that really is all of my comments. I think at the time, the lead agency tolling is a 30-day tolling. I think that, as Ralph said, they're addressing the engineer's comments, and we look forward to having a resubmission.
Okay, thank you, Sabrina.
Sure.
Bob, do you wanna run through your comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Yeah, Ralph seemed to address those, the three biggest items I did have is what you just mentioned. Number one being the sideline analysis, which is critical, which will dictate the layouts, obviously, of the entrance road to the whole subdivision, which is number one of my comments, and also number two, which he did just mention, Ralph, before. They're in the process of doing the deep test holes and the percolation test for the Westchester County Department of Health, which is critical. That's going to establish the viability of the lots here as shown. That's number two, which is great. Thank you so much, Ralph. Number three, obviously this comes a little bit later, but because of the situation and the way the planning board is going with the subdivision and the common driveways, they're going to need maintenance access easements for the driveways, which will probably include all the utilities and all the drainage, which is going to be privately maintained. That's something that the town council will have to look at, and I guess they'll be working with Jeff on that, with the drainage and the stormwater. That's number three. Well, when you're doing the final analysis of the clearing and grading or the limits of disturbance, make sure you add in the proper aquatic benches as per DEC when you're doing the final design for the stormwater. That might increase the size of the area of the stormwater itself on the north side of the lot. That's number four.
Hey, Bob, can I ask you?
Yes, yes.
Can I ask you what an aquatic bench is?
Well, that's basically a safety area, so people have the opportunity to get out where it's not too steep. Because God forbid anyone goes in there, there'll be a fence around this anyway. But so if someone does go in there, a small child, it's not that steep where you can't walk out. Because if you have something greater than like 3-on-1, it's very difficult to get out of the pond, so that's what it's for. It's like a safety match.
Okay, great, thanks.
And those are very critical. DEC is big on those, and I'm sure DEP will be as well. Number five, just indicate the SMPs. It seems to me, Ralph, just from my understanding and the planning board's understanding, it looks to me you're gonna collect all the roof leaders, all the runoff from the roadways and the pool areas, and everything's gonna be collected via a conveyance system going down to the stormwater system.
Yes,
That is the intent?
yes.
Okay, thank you. Also, 2-7, subject property is located in East Hudson watershed. Obviously, DEP will have their time and the glory here to review this. So I guess you'll be doing the deeps and perks with them. If you can do me one favor when you're doing that, could you contact Jeff and Terry? So a lot of times they might want to go out there too when they're witnessing the deeps and the perks, so everyone's on the same page on what DEP will not accept. They're very big on modeling. I know I was out there years ago with Zachariah, and any type of modeling they see, they just say, go with it. So let's see how that goes, but please give Jeff a call and Terry so they can witness it. I'm sure Jeff wants to see it, and Terry will as well. And then, of course, once that's done, there'll be a whole slew of other technical reviews done by Jeff. And Miguel as well regarding the stormwater management, the common driveway easement, cost estimates, the inspection fees, performance bonds, maintenance bonds, all the fun stuff with the subdivision. So that's my overall last catch-all phrase at the bottom. And that ends my review for tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Bob, we had mentioned, we had discussed briefly the access road coming off of Route 128 that's going into the common driveway. And I think we had observed that we thought we might wanna ask Ralph to take a look at a wider roadway coming off
Right,
of
that's a good point,
128.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't miss that, thank you for the good pickup. Yeah, Ralph, I would recommend that you might wanna make that 24, 12, and 12 coming in and out, just that roadway coming in, all for 128. Because I see you already have the aprons in there that DOT will want, but I think it'll make it a much safer ingress and egress for the cars and any fire trucks that have to come in. Just that single roadway coming in, make that 2 lanes, 12 and 12, 24 we recommend. And all the other roads, I think they should be minimum 20 foot, pavement to pavement, and then if you're gonna have swales on the outside, 20 and 2 and 2, because we had to go through this in East Village. And the building inspector and the fire marshal and the fire chief are very adamant on this, so you might wanna do it now so there's no problem later on. All those roads should be minimum 20 feet for the main road and 2 and 2 for the outriggers.
Okay, so you may have to adjust the coverage accordingly, but it shouldn't be that big a deal.
Yeah, should be fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, good pickup.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Dennis, you had comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay. So the first one is just a carryover. It's on the plans, and I just repeating it because I didn't see that it was changed. Not a big deal, just a notation. Just unclear about one particular tree. Appears to be just number 95. Couldn't tell. And they did apparently add per comment last time to remove the extra tree of heavens, so I have definitely no issue with that. And as Ralph had mentioned, obviously they're going through studies that I think may end up resulting in a change / increase of potential tree removals, especially that line of sight survey. So just as a carryover that obviously there's nothing proposed at this time with regards to how they're gonna meet tree replacement plantings, tree mate fund, and that's perfectly fine because we don't know those final numbers. Expanding off of what Sabrina had mentioned with respect to the demarcation of the wetlands buffer, so I did see that they had proposed the stones 25 boulders 25 feet apart. And going back to my last memo, I did want something that was obviously permanent, but also to be more, I think I used the term like tightly spaced. And I realized that in that memo, I didn't, make mention of, why in this particular case. I mean, there could be all kinds of reasons why you want to demarcate, a wetlands buffer, not just on plan, but, on planet Earth. And in this particular case, I know I had mentioned previously, and it's funny, it's probably as a consequence of the use of the property prior, which I assume areas look to be almost excavated and removed, probably sands, whatnot. But whatever was left behind, you've produced a upland wildflower meadow community with very little to no intervention. And when my experience in Newcastle, I really haven't seen that type of community. It always seems to be transitioning to shrubs, or there's obviously an incursion into the general area by invasives, whatever. But for whatever reason, this seems to be working great all on its own. And I just felt like because of its uniqueness, and because it's not a lot of woody specimens, I know people understandably respectful, looking to protect trees, shrubs. This is just a unique community in this spot. So, from my other inspections and experiences in Newcastle, when I see other properties, that transition line from, where regular landscaping and maintained turf cover and mulch beds end, and it gets more wild, that sometimes just serves as an area too where things get pushed in, transition, blown in, because, you know, the owners don't wanna look at that on their finished manicured area. And the people that they typically hire don't look to carry that stuff away either, so it ends up just getting blown in, pushed in, piled on, along with some inorganic items too, like, you know, a couple flower pots, you know, which I think is kind of funny, and Christmas trees and whatever. So in this particular community, I think if that is initiated, I think over time there's gonna be, you know, sort of a creep and a shrinkage of what you have and now, and kind of get the typical, all these escaped garden and landscape species that, you know, will do well in disturbed environments and full sun. You know, wooded environments sometimes just by the lack of photo period hitting the forest floor, those particular invasives don't really start to take, I mean, you notice them, but they don't like take hold. But this environment, there would be some concern. So I'm thinking of something that's more continuous and, you know, serves as an impediment obviously for vehicles, mowers, blowers, etc. But, you know, then there was, you know, some discussion which I didn't include in my memo that if you even, you know, wanted to pair that with some signage as to, you know, what the significance of this area is, you know, just any way to sort of keep it as is and not have and anyone not only not look to do development, but really, you know, other than, you know, obviously footprints, not look to, you know, place anything in there or store anything or deposit anything. So that's why I was 25 feet apart boulders is not gonna accomplish that.
So is the objective of this line to just be a visual demarcation, or is it to be something that says you cannot go past it, so we're putting up? Like I heard we did a fence and wire mesh, and to me, that's a barrier. But if you just put stones every 4 feet, lawn guys could still bring all the lawn cuttings through the 4-foot stones and dump them in the wetlands.
Sure.
So I'm assuming the fence is to stop people from doing that. Whereas the stones is just a visual thing that says, okay, please don't,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just trying to get
I think in this
clarification.
case, what Dennis is arguing is that there's enough uniqueness about this site, about this buffer. You know, we normally are concerned with demarcation. And I think what Dennis is saying here is it requires more in this particular case perhaps. And that's the line should be not just only demarcation, but protection. So we talked about this a little bit briefly earlier this morning, and you know, maybe a knee wall, something like this to keep people out, keep people from blowing stuff in, or as we did Sutton Farms, a split rail fence with some sort of wire barrier that would catch stuff if you're trying to blow it. And perhaps, you know, the applicant might have different ideas also. But I think this is a little bit different because it's so unique. What Dennis is describing is a very different environmental feature that we don't see in other places. I haven't seen throughout Newcastle. And by the way, Dennis confirmed that it's not one that requires, say, annual mowing. It's just a natural meadow, which is really unusual because
Less
most
is
of the meadows
more.
we've dealt with in this town,
Less is more, yeah.
they have to cut it at least once a year or so. So this was very interesting to me, but again, if we do something like this with some sort of protective device, I think it'll be sort of self-regulating as well, because I don't think one homeowner would let someone else do it when they've got you know, a barrier on their property. So it helps that way, cause we would do it on, it seems to me, on all four.
All four.
And it would be, it's a conservation subdivision. The reason we're going for a conservation subdivision was we recognize that there are steep slopes and wetlands and buffers here that are important to protect. It's in the environmental overlay district, another thing supporting the importance and uniqueness of the area. But I wanna echo Dennis's, I've been out on the site many times. I mean, this meadow is very, very different. I work with fields and meadows to the east of this, but those have got to be cut. This is very different. So whatever your pleasure is, whatever your thoughts are, I think it's more than demarcation, so the 25-foot spaced boulders would be inadequate. Probably any kind of boulder spacing, to your point, Greg, would be inadequate. It might have to be a solid, it doesn't have to, and one of the things that Dennis pointed out, if you put a 4-foot wall out there, then people start throwing it over the wall, they don't see it. So maybe a short wall, knee wall, 30 inches, 24 inches, it could be very handsome.
Or
some
a
split
square
rail
well, that's open.
Yep.
So you have a visual connection through
Yep,
it, you
yep.
can't dump and hide,
Yep,
and it's probably a little bit more cost effective than a stone wall,
could be, yep,
right?
Yep.
That way we don't put too much onus on the applicant.
Ralph, any thoughts? We're designing this for you.
Yeah, I hear that.
You're
I
welcome.
didn't hear what the last suggestion was, but I think a split rail fence with a mesh, wire mesh is, a good idea.
That was the last suggestion.
That was
That
great.
was the last suggestion, yeah, that's what I would like to propose.
Okay,
And would you be open to evenly spaced signage, just sort of,
Sure.
and obviously, I think I'm gonna be tasked probably with kind of developing what that language would be. Obviously, it wouldn't be, a sonnet, but you have to come up with something to just sort of alert to why the fence is there and, what its purpose, that-
Yeah, I think that's fine as long as it's not, like you said, as long as the signs aren't too big, they're not too close. I mean, it is gonna be like a residential property, so I'm sure someone does not wanna look at a yellow and black sign in the backyard.
Understood, okay, and if there's different owners from different backgrounds, if you would like different languages maybe for each sign, we could accommodate that as well, I'm kidding, but I understand.
as long as you keep it less than blue book length.
Remember, you need braille
Yeah.
also for ADA.
Yeah.
We could get in trouble. But I mean, appropriate signage, I
Yes,
think that
absolutely.
that would make some sense. Okay, good, anything else, Dennis?
Thank you.
All right, anything else, board members, thoughts, questions? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of work to be done, what we have to do here, as it seems to me, is take on adopt the notice and get that out, so we become lead agents. And
And now they can start to remove on this.
and again, I think, Ralph, at this point, the notice is one about the conservation subdivision, so there's no need for you to come back in with 30 pages of conventional each time. We're sort of done with that now.
No problem.
That goes to the museums, yes. Great, thank you.
Okay.
And then again, we can focus on the issues that we've outlined here. Okay. Is there-
Mr. Chairman, can you motion for the lead agency?
Yep, I was just gonna do that,
Do we
yes.
have to, didn't you say there's a typo on this we have to?
It's gonna be April 1, not March 4th.
It's draft and it will be updated and it'll be circulated with tomorrow's date on it.
So is there a motion to adopt the notice of secret action?
Motion?
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion's carried. The notice will be sent out, and I think we're set. I think we're all set, Ralph, so we'll just wait for your next submission.
Okay, guys, thank you.
Okay,
Everyone have a good night.
Yeah,
night.
thank you, thanks. Okay, our next item is the minutes of March 18, 2025. Anyone have any questions, issues on the minutes?
Yeah, I gave Felicia some edits, but I had some questions for the group, just to refresh my memory.
Sure.
Can we go to page 6,
Mhm.
item line 8? Bob, this is a question for you. Did you and the Commissioner of Public Works talk about the new water main going down the center of the road or on the side in the right of way?
Generally speaking, they like to put it in the roadway itself.
So in the road, okay, so then this thing that says water main in the right of way, we would adjust that? And
You
then-
can put right away or roadway, it doesn't matter, but preferably it would be less disturbance if you kept it in the existing road that there now, because I think to the west there's wetlands and to the other side it's quite close to the property. So I think put it within the roadway, existing roadway pavement.
Okay, cool, thank you. My next question, also for the group, Going on page 6, line item 33 and 34. Their engineer made this statement during the meeting, and I just want to know if anybody was able to clarify. Is there a minimum house size for the zoning that she kept talking about? Or was it the lot size has a minimum and not the building size?
Or neither.
Or no, the lot has a minimum size, that I recall, but I never heard of a house having a
He
minimum
might be
size.
talking about the floor area ratio,
Yeah, I agree.
minimum FAR.
Yeah,
You're right, she specifically
was.
did say, I can't make it any smaller.
Right, she
Right.
did.
The code prohibits me from doing that.
right,
It
and we,
has to be this big.
right, and we all like, are you sure? And she said, yeah, so
I
do we
I
know?
meant to, I did, now, let me look that up for you.
Okay.
But yeah, I meant to look that up too,
Okay,
Yeah, I think maybe there's a minimum, Sabrina, maybe there's a minimum square footage for
I don't think that there's a minimum square footage, I think she just needs to meet the there's might be a minimum floor area ratio for a
Okay.
single family home.
John will look that up, I guess,
yeah,
Mr.
yeah,
Holmes.
I'll just take a look.
Thanks, John.
and then I think, oh, then my last question deals with clearing grading limit lines. And this is a question for you, Mr. Attorney. On page 7, line item 32, you said for the board to maybe look to eliminate these, it would be a costly endeavor. What's the costly part?
To eliminate,
Yeah, the chairman, he questioned whether the board could impose and or change or eliminate the clearing and grading limit lines. Mr. Lovelace stated, it can be changed, but it would be costly.
I don't think I meant to say that.
Okay, that's what I'm asking, yeah. And to have the board go through, to have to go through the town board,
Which I didn't think that was required either, because it's just our
It's our
practice.
restriction.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I flagged it, that's all.
Yeah, I don't recall saying that and I don't know why I would.
Okay.
What was it,
I'll check that.
historically, like going back and waiving every other like, I know my property has a clearing and grading line.
Retroactive?
Yeah, that, because the whole thing is that limited disturbance, clear and grading line is during construction, really. And then post-construction, as I put in my email, there's other, often more restrictive setbacks and protections. That's at least been my experience, maybe that was the comment.
Maybe, but
Yeah,
I thought John,
if we were gonna go through
Yeah.
and look at every existing one and decide whether it should stay or go,
Oh, that could be.
that would be a, yeah,
Yeah.
that would- yeah.
or, you
That would
know,
probably do it.
Yes,
you know,
that would do
like
it.
that would sort of do it, because you're right, is if there's a subdivision and this board decides this is an imposition on the neighborhood, we want a barrier around them so the neighbors aren't too upset and the limits of, you know, the grading and the limits of disturbance are set, that makes sense for, you know, other things until they develop, so a sort of overall global resolution could be tough to do.
Yeah, and I think also, at least from my perspective, there is still value in these in certain circumstances. So I don't think we would wanna do a blanket global change and elimination. I think as they come up, I mean, I think Sabrina's suggested last time that if they come up because they're caught or snared in this, we would do this right away, very quickly, like we did that night. Go to public hearing right away, change the resolution, either eliminate the lines, change the lines to accommodate the owner, or whatever the action is that we think is appropriate. I just think that we need to keep in mind going forward on new subdivisions and as we take a look at these piecemeal as they come to us, we have to be really mindful, and I just think the burden should be on the planning board to have reasons for imposing clearing and grading limit lines over and above all the other demarcations and regulations that we have in town. And if we don't, if we just do it because we're regulating preference, we prefer not to see lawn, I don't think that's appropriate. My take on it, but again, I don't think we should do it globally, but I think that would be costly. But my understanding is that we, I sent a note to the supervisor and I see Jeff also sent a note to the town board, just to apprise them, that's what we were thinking of, but I didn't think it would require any kind of legislative action on the part of the town board.
It's a restriction this board put in place on any given subdivision or site plan approval, and it would be your jurisdiction to remove it, waive it,
Change it.
change it, right,
Whatever.
alter it,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it's completely within your subdivision and site plan review abilities.
And the discretion too.
Yes.
But if an applicant comes into the building department and the building department determines that there's a violation, not from that applicant, but from a prior applicant, they still have to come to the planning board and go through the process.
Yes.
If we wanted to try to change that, is that possible?
You'd have to, I don't know if you could.
Okay,
It's
that
hard-
might be the costly
but
town
it-
board
it-
thing.
That's the costly.
That's the big
And it's
one.
hard to change it until you see the hopefully we're coming up with a procedure where it gets to us quickly, efficiently, and the people know that this is an easy one,
Right.
you know?
Yeah,
As
that's the-
opposed to that, those limits are there for a reason, like this wetlands. You know, somebody comes in and says, oh, the fence was, that's my land, what are you telling me I can't do it?
Yeah, and I
you
think,
need to see the
Yeah, that stuff going forward, I totally agree with. I think it was the people that were here a couple of weeks ago that did nothing wrong.
Right.
And they had to do all this
there's
stuff.
been lots of them, that's the
You know,
problem.
and they had to spend a chunk of money that I'm sure not everybody has.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
You know,
And I think, Sabrina, you mentioned that the staff would also look in their discretion and waive the escrow. I think
Yes.
you raised
Yeah.
that, Jeff.
Yeah.
And said, that's an imposition as well, so maybe we can avoid that where it makes sense. And I think it probably will make sense in most cases, but I don't think it's correct to say 100% of the cases. There will be cases where it will be important,
Yes.
agreed.
and we're all about discretion here. I mean, that's what we do. So, okay. Do you want that line stricken, John?
Sure, if you could. I'll talk to Felicia about it.
Okay. All right, any other changes or thoughts?
Page 2, so line 37, I'm absent. Line 49, I make a motion.
You're good.
Wow, how'd you do that?
Oh, because
But
I'm
I'm
gonna tell you
confused
why.
here, right?
you did that, because that's the actual resolution
Okay,
that we put in.
so this is the 18th, but on the 4th, which is the
You were there,
extract, I was not here, but on the 18th I was. Okay, wanna make sure.
yes.
Back to the future.
Okay.
Good, okay. All right, anyone else, anything?
I'm
If-
good.
If not, as amended, is there a motion to adopt the minutes of March 18?
Motion?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And is there a motion to close the meeting?
Motion?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
All right, we're all set.
Good night, everyone.